Primeramente, muy buenos días. Good morning to all of you. I want to just thank, it's an honor for me to be here. I'm a little bit nervous, and as an old man, I still think I got a little bit of energy, but when I see this much energy, y cuando veo toda esta energía aquí en este cuarto, me siento como que es una cosa muy especial. It's a very special moment, because generally as you, as organizers, nosotros como organizadores en la comunidad, en la lucha por muchos años, llegamos a un momento donde nos entrelazamos, ¿no? And we build that, unity by coming together and joining in unity so we get acquainted with each other. We rarely do, because in each of our communities, we're working, in our own issues in the community. And I'm a strong believer in the autonomous leadership coming from the base. Estoy muy seguro yo y reconozco que el movimiento laboral por los derechos humanos civiles tiene que venir de la base y tiene que surgir ese liderazgo de esa base. Y lo digo por las experiencias que todos tenemos. I say that because of the experiences that you all have. And also, I don't believe in people coming in disrespecting the community of its leadership. Yo no creo en nada que puedan llegar individuos a las comunidades cuando existe ese liderazgo y tengan el respeto por este trabajo que han hecho en la comunidad.
We have translation going on while you're speaking English.
Oh, dice que no hable tanto español.
No digo esto.
No.
Mentira.
No, lo que me dice es que hay muchos que ya saben el idioma inglés. So anyway, I just want to again thank Mark Rich and the United Teachers of Los Angeles, UTLA. So let's give them a real applause, remember? They were able to honor us with, this space, which generally, in my days of the UFW, we always made friends in labor because we didn't have any money, and we still don't have any money, okay? Because we don't believe that we have to go to a corporation in order to take that money and utilize it from the very enemy that created the situation that we have here today. And it's a foregone conclusion that all of us recognize it. And the real question is, what brought us together? And I think you know why, because other than that, you're here. It's been a hard, couple of decades, with the labor movement taking strides to move in the 60s and advancing. But now we're under a brutal attack by the corporations that before we weren't able to put a face on them. We always blamed the politicians, for good reason, that weren't accountable to the community after they came to us begging for our vote in the Latino vote. Now, the Latino vote, and will continue to grow, and you young people will be the leaders in that vision that we will take control of this state and make it a place in a world for our great-grandkids to be able to have justice and be treated with that respect. And I think that's what all this is about as it relates to this brutal attack against working people in this country, and especially women and other minorities, not only just us, because we're in this room, but in light of that, we need to build that contact with that community, African American community, Asian community, and any other community that wants to, join in this force as a united force. And let me tell you, it wasn't easy to bring all of us together, because I know and we all know that we all have our differences. And we respect the fact that those differences, because we have a right to be able to say, I can differentiate and have my feelings about my positions. And we respect that. We may not agree, but in the end we come out of that room united and focused on the battle and the focus of the issue, jointly together. Because we cannot win or ever win unless we have that. I know that I've been honored to meet many of you leaders, you know, Nativo Lopez, Mark Rich, and Elliot from Oxnard and Ventura, and many, many others. And I think that what comes to us right now is joining that force and respecting that they've done a tremendous hard work. But getting back to why we're here, we've been struggling with the whole issue of workers' rights, immigrant rights, for as long as you and I can remember. And I can remember that way back when, with Chavez and many of the organizers, dealing with the whole question of strikebreakers. And there was strong criticisms about us, whether if it was a mistake or not, but that we considered a strikebreaker, irregardless of whatever color. But in light of that, we respected the fact that that was part of the pitting binationally our brothers and sisters who are being forced here, that many people don't understand why there's so many millions of immigrant workers from not only Mexico, Central America, and the Caribbean. For the policies of the corporate agenda of the North American Free Trade Agreement that forced millions and millions of workers when the U.S. farmers in the Midwest and the Corn Belt who grow Monsanto genetically modified corn that now is being eaten by the Mexican population, because you know and I know every morning they go over to La Torteria where they pick up their tortillas. And now that corn has been blended in through the production in the United States has been subsidized by our tax. And what they've done is they devastated the corn industry, and basically the entire commercial corporate world is now in Mexico. You can go to any town, any community. You have 2 or 3 Walmarts, Home Depots, 2,500 Walmarts in Mexico. And January passed a reform, they reformed the law, labor law, to 7 pesos an hour. Divide that into 13.50 on the basis that that's 7 pesos of what they're earning. It fluctuates to between 42 and 48 cents an hour. That's today. And they call that reform. Today in Mexico City and the entire country is the biggest revolution that's happened with activism. 2, one, that the oil corporations now want to take back the oil that belongs to the Mexican people. And in light of that, the teachers are being privatized. Where does this come from? That in our communities are hard-pressed in education with cutbacks of teachers, supplies for young people to have school. And at the end, our young people have to compete in the market and in order to get an education, and now it's going to cost a student $150,000 to get educated. I do not agree, and I think many of you do not agree. Education should be free. Right. So, what is our first endeared black African-American president do? He's on the charter school to destroy public education and many other things that they're going after. And this is not just the beginning. It's been happening for many years to come to this point now. In order to find a job, back when I entered South Central Los Angeles many years ago, and you say Firestone Boulevard exists today, no longer, because that was the rubber industry and many other industries. They're now gone, especially when NAFTA came into effect. So today we're being challenged whether the people are going to accept slavery and indentured servitude and classifying the immigrant community with this so-called comprehensive immigration reform. That many people are being asked to march, but very quietly they're only using one issue, a pathway to citizenship. And I'm sure that every one of the immigrants and undocumented community, they want that. But what they really want is what Ronald Reagan, a Republican, gave the permanent residency to almost 3 million undocumented people in this country. But here we have a Democrat president and Democratic Party who are saying, no, we're going to give you something better than nothing. And who meets with President Obama? Is it the base, you and your representative at that table? No. It's the leadership of the federations, of the unions we built many, many, many years ago. And sadly to say that even though there are some people who are, I respect the fact that they endear the UFW and Cesar Chavez. But when Chavez, before he dies, says, never will I accept indentured servitude as only as slavery. But now we have the UFW pushing recruitment and importation of the poorest workers under the slave conditions and a contract with the government of Mexico, and the UFW having exclusive rights as a union to sign up those workers as it relates to joining the union for the sake of union dues. It's vienes y te vas in that program. It's you come and you leave. Because all they want is the cheap labor and the domination of control of those workers. And they call that humane. When no one's read all the intricacies of 800 pages of this so-called S-744. And that's nothing. If it wasn't for the serious situation right now that they're all concerned about who's going to call a war against Syria, now Obama's smart, you threw the ball somewhere else. But where the ball really falls, as they did in Iraq and Afghanistan, billions were sold there and used. So what are we here for? We're here to work. It's going to be a working convention. And the fact is that the AFL-CIO has chosen to have its convention in the largest metropolitan area outside of the countries of origin of the undocumented. Why did they pick Los Angeles? For that very reason. And they're going to push, again, this reform that they call humane. So we got to organize. We got to work to do tomorrow in the convention and be invisible. There is no national opposition to 744, but many groups. That's why we're here. And I say, are we willing to fight? Are we willing to confront the AFL-CIO? They're already wounded with the ILW pulling out in one paragraph saying, we're not accepting this kind of immigration so-called humane reform. So I ended here in saying, I am happy to be here, and I'm happy that you're all here, but you are the dangerous part of organizing in the communities, because you are the power if you go out and organize and get people out so we can lobby and register with the AFL-CIO to become observers and go in there and lobby inside the convention and lobby outside. Thank you very much.